Thank you very much. That was very nice, thank you. Now, if we're going to do this exactly like we do earnings calls, then obviously you have to pretend I'm recorded, and then we don't get to do write-in questions at earnings calls. I like that idea. I like the idea of actually writing the questions. I have a few charts that I'm going to refer to, and based on this, hopefully we can make sure it all works and everyone can see it. But I wanted to start with the trends we see in our industry that are fundamentally changing the way our industry is ordered, fundamentally changing the way IBM operates, because that transformation is really probably three transformations at once, and I'll talk more about that. I'll talk a little bit about then the platforms we've built in order to be successful over the long term, given that industry. I'll talk a little bit about how we've differentiated ourselves. And then I'm going to get into a couple of topics that I think are really critical, particularly as we think about the long term. One is, how do we bring technology and bring innovation into our clients in a way that gets accepted and can actually improve the work we do and improve our clients' outcomes? And secondly, how do we build skills to make sure these systems can run over the long term? It's a big challenge. So I'm going to kind of go through this in an order, and presumably we'll have time left at the end for questions. So first I'm going to talk, as I mentioned, a little bit about the shifts in our industry and what's happening. First and foremost, and we've been pretty clear about this, we see data as the world's next great natural resource. Now, that's not to say that we collectively haven't been using data to make decisions for a long time. We certainly have. But the creation of data now is at an unprecedented rate. By some estimates, as much as 80% of all the world's data has been created in the last few years alone. So the point of the curve we're on is we are headed toward a massive increase in the amount of data, and the thing that will transform industries, the element that will transform professions, is how we capture that data and how we make better decisions out of it. I'm going to talk a little bit more about our perspective in a moment. Secondly, there's this thing out there called the cloud. We participate obviously in this market, but think about how you can get access to far more computing power, far more insight into all of the data sources you have, but you don't really buy something and set it up. You actually just rent it, if you will, or you consume it as you need it. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about a cloud because there's an economic element to this, but more importantly, it's changing the business models that people can deploy, and quite frankly, it's changing the agility at which clients have to move. So the cloud isn't just about economics. There's some economics to it, but it's really about the agility you get from thinking about and operating in a cloud world. And then finally, as we've all seen over the last few years now, almost decade, there are fundamentally new ways that our clients engage with their customers, and therefore the fundamentally new ways that we have to engage with our clients. And that's not only creating, again, a lot of data. You can see how all these things are intertwined, but it's also changing the way that enterprises think about how they interact with their clients. They're thinking about that experience, that a consumer experience, if you will, and what customers expect and what they're willing to give up in order to get a better experience. And we've kind of shorthanded that here, but there are an oversimplification to say that you're trading information for access to something. And our clients are thinking about how do they use that. Our clients are thinking about how do they make sure they understand the most about their customers and are able to serve them. So between this idea that we have all this data, between this idea that we have these new cloud platforms being built, and therefore we have access to computers that we never had access to before, and the idea that the world is changing how it interacts with one another and the new platforms by which companies interact with their clients, we are really undergoing three transformations at once. And we see it in our business, and this is the journey that both IBM and we've been on with our clients. Now, we have a perspective on this, and I'll start by saying that when we take this idea of data and cloud and engagement, we shorthand all of that to say we've got a set of what we call strategic imperatives. And so for our business, it's about 41, last year was about 41% of our overall revenue are from these three areas of cognitive, cloud, and industry perspective businesses. So we're making this transformation. It reflects obviously what we see in our clients, which is we are in a productivity business, i.e., IT is there to deliver productivity to our clients, and then they reinvest that to get new ways of reaching their clientele. So our revenue streams, not surprisingly, look a lot like the transformation that our clients are going through, which is I need productivity at a part of my business, and then I'm going to reinvest that to do all these new things, to learn new things about my clients, to reach them in new ways, and to build new platforms. Our perspective on cognitive, and this is a non-technical perspective, so let's just make sure we all understand that you don't have a researcher talking about cognitive to you. But here's my perspective. We can no longer program computers to find relationships in the data that we have. The pools of data are too big, and quite frankly, you don't really know what you're looking for. So when we think about why is cognitive the next step in analytics, it's because the amount of data that's coming in all forms, structured and unstructured, it's video, it's sound, it's lots of unstructured data. We couldn't program it to say, find the relationship between A and B. That's what we used to do. That's what analytics, and those are the kinds of programs we've been writing for a long, long time, help our clients understand the relationship between one thing and another. But in a world of cognitive, it doesn't work. There's too much data coming in. You're not sure of the relationships. So what we really needed to do, what we really have done with Watson, is find a way to interact with your data. Find a way to take a pool of data, what the researchers would call a corpus, and within that corpus, then, find a way to interact and find insights within the data. That's my non-technical description of cognitive. And I think in a world where we have not only new data coming in at an astounding rate, but we've got large pools of data from within our clients' own shops that is proprietary, large pools of data in their own shops that they want to learn from. It's these cognitive solutions that are going to drive the next level of insight and solve some of the world's toughest problems. I'm going to come back to that in a moment. But when we think about, for instance, healthcare, we created a health business last year, Watson Health. Within that, we acquired some businesses that those businesses had their own data. So we now have about 200 million lives worth of healthcare data that our partners used in order to learn about what they have in their data pools. We added to that about 30 billion images, healthcare images, so that Watson can see and understand, what does a certain condition look like. And again, our partners are accessing all of that data in order to help them diagnose disease. So the idea of a system that you can program doesn't work. You have to ingest data and find a way to interact with it. And I think our Watson Health business is a good example of that. Secondly, all of that sits on a cloud. Again, it's not too many companies, not too many enterprises in the world that could afford to put together the kind of computing power you need to run a Watson. And so the access on the cloud is really done through what the programmers would call APIs, application programming interfaces. It's a way that programs share information so that our developers can write something that accesses Watson's conversation capabilities or Watson's insight capabilities, and you don't have to have Watson sitting there. You have it, again, on the cloud. Now, clouds are important not only because of the cognition that you can get, but the IBM cloud also has the kind of security you would expect and the kind of robust scalability you would expect as well. And then we've added more to that Watson cloud. We have weather data. We bought the digital assets of the weather company as an example. So we keep piling more and more cognition onto that cloud platform, but at its very core, it's a robust enterprise-grade set of cloud capabilities with now data access capabilities to match so that, again, your insights against or in that cloud can provide insights to your business. All of that gets delivered, as you would expect, in an industry context. So our experience in talking with our client base, our experience in 105 years now of being in business is that the industry definition, the industry context is really, really important. So the cloud we build for banking is not the same cloud we build for healthcare, for all the obvious reasons. And so when you put all those things together, as I mentioned, for us, it's now 41% of our business, but you can see the interplay between cloud and analytics and cognition and industry. Even though we kind of separate them into three unique things, you can see the interplay. And so with the differentiation we've built now within our platforms, I think we're ready to take on what we think are the three big questions that our clients will be thinking about and addressing over the next, I'd say, few years. First and foremost, all of our clients will be thinking about what cloud platform should I be on. Now, the answer will likely be more than one, but clients, our clients, enterprise clients, will be thinking about a cloud platform. As I mentioned, we've built not only a scalable, robust enterprise base, but we have a lot of cognition and data that sits on top of it. So first and foremost, what cloud platform? Secondly, they'll be thinking about what is the AI or the cognitive platform that our clients will be choosing to go with. And these are important decisions because obviously you can't be training a whole lot of data, different pools of data. You got to find something that works, and you have to have a robust set of capabilities. Once you head down that path, it's likely you're going to stick with that cognitive platform. So you're going to pick a cloud platform, probably more than one. You're going to pick a cognitive platform, probably not more than one. And then within that, you also have to decide on what is your data model over the long term. And what I mean by that simply is that Watson is built to make sure that your insights from your data stay with you, stay with the enterprise. It's not ingesting data to make this big graph of data, if you will, this big knowledge graph smarter for everybody. But Watson's designed to make sure that if you're a bank and you're using Watson to help you navigate the regulatory process, then you'll get the insights and you'll keep those. You're not making everybody in the banking industry smarter. And that selection of data platform, you won't make it uniform for every part of your business. Obviously, if you're working on something that doesn't use your own data, then you'd probably be happy to share it. But for things that work on your own data, you're probably happy to keep it yourself. So we think, again, we're pretty well positioned to answer which cloud platform, which cognitive platform, and what data model as we head into the next few years here. All of that is built on what I would call this relentless focus on innovation and a relentless shift to value. That's the IBM financial model. So I'm going to put only one, it's not even a numbers chart, I don't have any numbers other than these, but I'm going to put one financial model chart up there at the end, and you'll see that our revenue growth is fairly, we don't have a high revenue growth model because we really have a high value model. So first and foremost, we have been investing in R&D for years and years and years. It's always been a big part of how we have created differentiation within the IBM business model. Quite frankly, it's the reason that our clients give us the work they give us, because we run their most important processes. It's the reason that 55 out of 57 of the leading banks run on IBM platforms. It's the reason that IBM runs the reservation systems of the world and the supply chains of the world and the banking systems of the world, because we continue and have always had a fierce dedication to investing in R&D. Now, I didn't put the dollars up, but we put the number of patents, and IBM last year, again, for the 24th year, led in the number of US patents created. We broke the 8,000 mark last year for the first time, any organization. Now, I don't know that this is going to last forever. But what's important, I think, is that from a business model perspective, we recognize and stay keenly committed to driving innovation. This is only one measure of that. It's certainly not the only measure of that. But our research labs around the world provide a very strong base of innovation. Secondly, as I mentioned, we have a high value model. So we're always looking for how do we deliver value to our clients. And that means that we have to manage the portfolio of businesses and be willing, quite frankly, to divest of things that don't have a lot of value in them. and invest in things that we do see a lot of value. So we put in on this chart, we put along that top row the things that we've invested in of late. We are fairly acquisitive. We've purchased roughly 150 companies over the last 10 years. I don't know that we'll accelerate. I don't know that we'll slow down in the future, but I can tell you that acquisitions have been and will continue to be a big part of our model. And then offsetting that or reducing the size of IBM in total are the things we divest, things that we don't see long-term value in. And so while we've probably taken about $8 billion of revenue out of IBM over the last 5 years, probably no impact to profit because none of these things had a lot of value, if you will, to our clients. Now, they have value in the places that they landed. So, the businesses we divested fit nicely into, with some investment, fit nicely into their new homes, and therefore our clients get value when they're outside of our model. But we couldn't see, given our investment choices, how we could fuel the investment they needed in order to drive differentiation. So we continued to divest. I see now a portfolio that is pretty high value. When we look at the segmentation that we work on, and we think about how all of that comes together in front of a client, I think we've divested of things now that represent those that we couldn't really kind of get our head around, and will continue to drive investment in the form of acquisition. So again, our base is really built on these really two simple ideas of, one, we have to continue to innovate for our clients, and we have to continue to shift to where value is, where we see it in the marketplace. With that as a little bit of a background on IBM, I wanted to spend just a few minutes on these really two important topics. So I talked a bit about innovation. I talked about how our world is changing rapidly, and this idea that you need these cognitive systems in order to engage with your clients, and you're going to be collecting data and interacting with your clients in a whole new way. So in that world that's changing fairly dramatically, we felt it important that we IBM declare, what are our principles as we head into this cognitive era. And our principles cover the topics that you would expect. They cover the purpose, the transparency, and the skills. So first on purpose. I think it's important that our point of view, it's important for our clients to understand. I think it's important for society to understand that we view cognitive systems, we view the purpose of IBM's cognitive systems to augment human intelligence, not to replace human intelligence. And the best example right now, it's been out for about a week and a half, is what we just announced with H&R Block. So H&R Block, a big tax preparer here in the U.S., they have now put Watson on the desk of every one of their client service representatives in the H&R Block retail shop. So when you go to, I don't know how anybody in this room is going to use H&R Block, but if you go to H&R Block, you will be sitting down with someone who has Watson at their fingertips and is raising the level, if you will, and giving the full insight of the tax code and Watson's ability to navigate the tax code based on a fact base. We've raised the level of the education that H&R Block has done for their retail store reps. We've raised what I think is the ability for an H&R Block to deliver service to their client base. Now, this wasn't, again, we haven't replaced any of the reps. It's just about raising their level. And again, this is really, for me, the real purpose for us, the real purpose of what AI can do. It can augment the intelligence that people are delivering within their jobs. I'm going to come back to the idea of jobs in a moment. Secondly, we think it's really important for IBM to be clear about when is AI being used, how is it being applied, what are the sources of data, how does that system, what's its rank order, if you will, on what it can provide. So if you were to go, for instance, and look at some of the health applications where doctors are using Watson to understand better courses of treatment, Watson gives that doctor not only what Watson thinks the best course is, but it tells the doctor how it got there. It tells the doctor, here's what I looked at, here's where the linkages are, and here's my probability that I'm right. Here's my confidence level, if you will. Again, all designed to augment the doctor, but really clear about the sources it used. And I think the transparency, we feel the transparency in how these AI systems are used is really important. Again, it's really built around this idea that over the long term, if you're going to use these, if you're going to change your business, if you're going to change the way you interact with the clients, you have to understand both how it's being used, where it's been used, and where they're getting their data. Who trains your data is important. So as an example, we are now pushing deeper into financial services. We created another unit called Watson Financial Services. You can see how we name those things. Watson Financial Services is focused on helping our banking clients navigate what is probably one of the biggest challenges they have, which is the regulatory environment around the world. Thousands and thousands of pages of regulations, not always consistent, very difficult to navigate, and right now done by experts. So we bought the world's leading consulting firm in this called Promontory, and we're going to have Promontory train Watson to help the banks navigate the field. It's different. You can't just go search the web, try to get all of the regulatory documents and say, okay, I'm going to help you now navigate the regulatory environment. It doesn't work that way, and quite frankly, we've estimated that as much as 80% of the world's data isn't searchable. You need private data. You need the data that sits within our client systems, which means you also need to tell them how you're going to use it. And you can see that again in our transparency. The insights that come from it stay with our clients. Finally, I wanted to talk about skills because we see it as one of our biggest challenges. We hear it from our clients as one of their biggest challenges. How do you get the skills to run these systems over the long term? And we in IBM have committed to helping students and workers retrain and citizens get the skills they need in order to be relevant and productive in this new cognitive era. Now, the world creates a lot of PhDs, not enough maybe, but it creates a lot of PhDs, and we got research centers full of PhDs. But there's also a lot of work that has to happen from those without a college degree. In fact, a lot of our jobs in IBM don't require a college degree. High school, yes. Associate's degree, yes, but not necessarily a college degree. And so we were thinking through how do we address this skills mismatch issue that we have, and we developed a program a number of years ago, back in 2011. I'll show you how it's evolved in a moment, but back in 2011 we developed a program called PTech, Pathways in Technology Enhanced College, Pathways in Technology, think about it that way. And what PTech is we take kids, traditionally who have been in underserved areas. First one we did was in Brooklyn. I'll show you the list of where they are now. And in PTech, we've created the curriculum. And the curriculum is focused on what do we feel based on everyday life in a data center, everyday life in a design studio. What skills do you need in order to compete and to be successful in those environments? And it doesn't have to be, again, a college degree. So we take these kids in basically with 2 years of high school to go, 10th, 11th, 12th, sometimes we take them in 9th, but we take these kids, we put them through high school, and then they do 2 years and get an associate's degree, and then we hire them. And we have partners in this who also obviously would love to hire them. We're just getting now the first kids coming out of this program, and we had a number of them with us not long ago, and they're the most wonderful, inspirational stories. These lovely kids from Brooklyn who talk about how their friends now ask them, hey, I'm in college, should I really finish? You did PTech, you're already working. Fascinating stories, fascinating stories. So we have them in our design studios. They're just starting, again, now to come into the workforce. But PTech has been a phenomenal success, again, really on this idea of collaborating between industry, who knows what the jobs they have, and an academic environment that's willing to, and government in this case, that's willing to help create this curriculum. And we've spread PTech now from, started in Brooklyn. You can see the list of how it's expanded, including Melbourne, Australia. We have, I think, 7 schools in Melbourne, and now in Morocco as well, in Casablanca. So So this is the program, this is an approach, not the only one, I'm going to come to another one in a moment. This is an approach to how we can scale now and get to what we call not, they're not white-collar jobs, they're not blue-collar jobs, they are new-collar jobs. And it's a scalable approach to help fill the tens of millions of new-collar jobs here in America, but these kids need the right skills. So this program, very well received. When we sit down with government, we find that we're pretty much aligned perfectly with what they're trying to get done, and we're really excited. Now, at the same time, we also view over the long term that so there are going to be some new big labor pools created. In fact, by 2040, I think the estimate I saw was that Africa is going to have the largest labor pool in the world by 2040. So we announced a couple of weeks ago, based on our discussions with our clients will tell you the number one gap that they see in the labor market is skills, the skills that are coming out of the schools versus the skills that they need. So a few weeks ago, we announced a program called DNA, Digital Nation Africa. And within that, we're investing $70 million in order to bring what we call digital skills, things that will make you competitive in a cognitive world, in a cloud world, things that will make you competitive in the labor force, and we think it'll reach 25 million kids over the next 5 years. That's phenomenal scale. But again, we collectively have to figure out what are we going to do with that big labor pool. It's hugely attractive if we can give them the right skills and if we can get them on a path to being competitive in this new-collar world. So between things like PTech, between Digital Nation Africa, there are answers out there to help the skills mismatch that we see. But we have to be willing to jump in with some investment. We have to be willing to jump in with some experience. And we have to be willing to take the lead here in order to make it happen. So between PTech and DNA, I think we'll have some pretty good success, and they scale pretty well. So before I leave, I am the CFO. I'd be in trouble if I didn't do one financial chart. So very quickly, with significant transformation in our industry, we've transformed fairly dramatically over the last 10 years. We've divested, as I said, a fair number of businesses. We continue to invest for higher value. We have a financial model that isn't going to produce a ton of growth, kind of low single-digit revenue growth, but we do expect within that to continue to expand margins, and we do expect that we can continue to both return capital to our shareholders as well as invest. And in a 105-year-old company, we do think about, as stewards of this great institution, we do think about what do we have to do now to make sure that we've got another 105 years at least ahead of us. So that's all I had for my comments. Are we doing questions from?
Is the mic on? Well, thank you for that. I asked that great pivot between the financials to the purpose to the impact of all that. And what I'd like to do is field two questions. We have a hard stop. Maybe the clock can be reset so that we have. And I asked that folks, that the investors may have the first crack at the questions, and please avoid statements. Let's keep questions crisp so we can end on time. I promise to get him out at 2 o'clock. So with that, question.
Thank you. Absolutely phenomenal presentation. My question is about blockchain. What does it do for trust? What is your vision over the short term as to how blockchain will evolve?
Yeah, blockchain, it's a great question. So blockchain for us is sort of going to do for transactions what the internet did for information. It's going to enable a whole new set of transactions between unknown parties in a way that kind of reorders, if you will, everything that sits between. So when you think about a supply chain today, and we are spending time we have, I think, 40 or 50 blockchain implementations underway. When you think about supply chain, and I'll tell you the one I know the best because it's within IBM, we're shipping goods to our distributors and to our business partners, and on occasion there are disputes not because of the products, but because the state is wrong on the tax and blah. So the dispute process from start to finish takes 60, 65 days, and obviously there's a whole lot of capital tied up within that process. So just within global financing now, which runs on a blockchain, we shortened the dispute cycle from about 70 days to about 2. And so all of that, as a CFO, you're looking, wow, I can get all that capital back now. But when you think about not just supply chains, when you think about clearing of securities, when you think about, we've got an easy supply chain, think about a global shipping firm that has multiple governments that they're dealing with, multiple importers, multiple bills of lading. It's a phenomenally complex process, and blockchain will be the thing that allows you to massively reduce and take out a lot of poorly invested, tied up capital today.
Thank you for that. One other question? Mark McDivitt.
Martin, thank you. Thank you. That was excellent. Mark McDivitt, State Street. ESG factors, big data, IBM, in brief.
Was that a statement or a question? Yeah, so I think for IBM, when I think about the investments we're making today, when I think about the path, for instance, that we've taken on Watson and how we've created a platform, when I think about our relentless shift of capital, when I think about us trying to solve, these big problems like how do you fill these jobs, when I think about the kinds of skills we can bring in quite easily, but with the other ones we have to remix, all of those problems to me are these long-term issues. They're not going to be solved overnight. They're not going to be solved. They're not going to be solved without a high conviction approach, because our choice to divest, for instance, of our semiconductor manufacturing operations isn't one that's going to pay off. It's not going to pay off this year. It's not going to pay off next year. In fact, I would bet we're not really going to pay off till 2020, 2021, because that's when the cost of building your own semiconductors for a subscale manufacturer like us become too overbearing, and we would have had to go to our investors and say we need like $25 billion of capital to do it. So IBM's culture has always been around managing for the long term. Our ability to navigate that is improved with things like data, things like big data. So I think we're in an area where we're in a transformation where we have a lot of change going on in the world. Our long-term view, though, hasn't really wavered. We sit between technology and business, if you will, and our ability to bring value to our clients is really our ability to help them get value out of those two intersections, their business and technology. We're not a consumer business. The closest we get to consumer now is our purchase of the weather company. So we're not, it's not like it's a thing we'll never do, but we're really still not a consumer business. We're still business to business. And so when we sit between those two intersections, knowing our client base, knowing how fast they have to respond, we know that we're going to have to think long term. Think long term and use the tools. The same thing our clients are asking from us, we do those internally as well. So it's quite an exciting, I think, as a CFO in particular, it's quite an exciting time to think about how you make better decisions and how you can embed cognitive into everything we do.
Well, thank you, Martin. Just like financially, timing-wise, you hit your numbers. So we're ending right at 2 p.m., and thank you very much.